Hello piano students, this is Dr. Ajero, and in this video I want to show you how to play the improvisation on page 255. I'll start off first with me playing through the whole 8-measure sequence, and then you could use that as a model to create your own improvisations as well. And then I'll follow that up with me covering the left hand in a little bit more detail on how to spell those chords correctly and use the Alberti bass pattern. And then follow that up with how you can craft your right hand melody so that it contains chord tones that fit with the particular harmony, but also it has something that is of melodic interest to go along with the assignment. 1, 2, here I go. So how are we going to grade you on your improvisation? Well, there's 4 particular criteria that I want to highlight to you guys, and they're almost ranked in importance here as well. Number 1 is that you need to play the correct chords in left hand in rhythm without stopping. You need to demonstrate a melody that contains chord tones that fit with the left hand. And then also you want to include a healthy mix of non-chord tones such as passing tones and neighbor tones, and make sure that they resolve properly to the respective chord tones. And then the final criteria is which you're going to be graded on is the creativity, how you're able to make a melody that has some sort of shape that doesn't just stay in one small part of the piano keyboard, has a little sense of direction where it doesn't seem like you're just kind of wandering all over the place, and then also that you include a tasteful use of varied rhythms as well. So let's go over the first criteria as far as playing the correct chords in the left hand in rhythm without stopping here. Okay, so in the key of we are in the key of F major. So let me pull up F major here. Remember that there is 1 flat in the key signature, B flat. So all B's should be made flat, and try to avoid, of course, B naturals whenever possible. I'm going to hide the key signature for the time being. Now, before we do the Alberti bass accompaniment, let's just go over the chords in block style. The first chord is the 1 chord F major, which should be spelled F, A, and C. Okay. The good news is the second chord, the D minor / F. Remember, when you have that /F or /anything after it, it means that it's an inversion where the bottom note is something different than the root here. Normally we spell the D minor chord D, F, A, but since it's D minor / F, then we want to invert it so that F is your bottom notes. Hence, you should spell the D minor chord over F, F, A, D, like that, from the bottom up, okay? And then the next chord is a B flat major chord, okay? Do you remember how to spell the B flat major chord? However, it has a /F after it, so then I'm going to keep that F here. In fact, I already got the D on top, so all I need to do is change the A to a B flat. I like to use the fingering 5-2-1, just because my second finger is free, and then I can just keep my third finger ready at the A when it's needed there. The next one is the C7/E chord. Okay, so we know a C7 chord is the dominant 7th chord, which is based off of the C major triad, and adding a minor 7th on top, which would be B flat. However, we don't have to play all 4 notes of the chord. Which note can we leave out? We can leave out the 5th and still get a C7 chord with this combination of C, E, and B flat. So what I need to do is invert it so that E is the bottom note. Here's my bottom note, E. So I'm going to take the C, I'm going to throw that on top, and then I should end up with a, bingo, C7/E. Okay? So just again, to summarize, those first 4 measures should be F major, D minor over F, B flat over F, and then C7 over E. Now you do have to do these in an Alberti bass accompaniment as outlined here on page 255. Remember, the Alberti bass is a classical accompaniment style that is often used in like pieces by Mozart, Beethoven, and Haydn. And what it does, it takes the 3 notes, regardless of whatever inversion that you're in, and plays them in the order of bottom note, top note, middle note, and then back to the top note. Bottom note, top note, middle note, top note. Just like that, okay? So then when I put the whole first four measures, it should sound like this. F, D minor over F, B flat over F, and then C7 over E. Okay? If you want to pause the video and work on that portion, you're welcome to do so. However, I'm going to move on to the next portion on the second half here. The first chord is F major again. And then the next one is a G minor chord, but it says slash B flat, so I don't want to play it in this root position here. I could move up here, but then that's going to be kind of encroaching into treble clef territory here. So what I recommend to students to do in measure 6 is go down to the spelling of the G minor over B flat, which is B flat. And then if I'm doing the Alberti bass pattern, I should do it like that. B flat, G, D, G, so that I end up with my G minor over B flat chord there as well. And then I have the C7 chord again, but this time there's no slash E after it. So then I should play that in root position, leaving out the fifth. C, B flat, E, B flat, so that I end up with the C7 chord. And then in the very last measure, if you want to just end with an F major block chord, you're welcome to do so, okay? So here's how measures 5, 6, and 7, 8 for the left hand goes here, okay? And that's how it should go there, okay? So make sure you practice that left hand so you can do that without stopping, because really that's probably what you're most going to be heavily graded upon, is your ability to play that left hand, and you can almost get away with doing anything in the right hand simultaneously with that and not get a 0. But of course, I'm hoping that you want to strive for more than not getting a 0 on this. Right? So the second criteria in which you're going to be graded on is demonstrating a melody that contains chord tones that fit with that left hand. So one of my suggestions to you guys here is to maybe play the left hand chord accompaniment along with just the single roots of every chord here. Try just doing that with just the roots here. So play F with the F major chord, D with the D minor chord, B flat with the B flat major chord, etc., etc. That way you at least have a skeleton of maybe where you want the melody to go to eventually. Something like this here. F, D, B flat, C7, F, G, C, F. It's almost an interesting melody already, even without having any of those different rhythms or different melody notes to go along with it here, okay? And then you can, of course, experiment around. Maybe you don't want to do the roots for every measure there. Maybe you want to just do it for a few measures here, and maybe you want to play fifths or thirds for some of the other chords, or sevenths when the seventh chord comes in, something like this. One thing that I'm trying to do for every time that I do this, regardless of whether I'm doing all roots or different roots here, is at least for the very first measure and then the last measure, it's always good practice, or it's a safe bet to always start with the tonic note F in this particular case, okay? So that's one way that you can create a skeleton of the melody there. But then what I also want you to do in the third criteria is to include a healthy mix of non-chord tones used properly, such as passing tones or neighbor tones. You know, you could even try to experiment around doing just neighbor tones like this. That was probably a little bit overdone, but it's at least a jumping off point, and you can kind of sprinkle some in between. You could even do passing tones. Okay, so those are just some melodic ideas that you could kind of sprinkle around a little bit there to make it a little bit more interesting. And then finally, the last criteria is to have a little sense of creativity where the melody has shape. Don't just stay in an F major 5-finger position. Try to have a leap of faith, literally, and try to go up an octave, or I like going up to this high A. I like that as kind of like a climax of the short 8 measure melody that you might create there, so you can steal that idea from me. And then probably the most understated sense of creativity that you can demonstrate is use a tasteful use of varied rhythms here, okay? Now, you don't have to use any kind of complicated rhythms like quintuplets or triplets or things like that, but they give you a sense of what you could potentially do or how much rhythmic activity we would like there on page 255. Just a mixture of half notes, quarter notes, and then a whole note. Don't discount a whole note thrown in measure 4 or other portions of the piece as well there. But try to balance it out there with some more rhythmic activity with quarter notes, even throwing in a couple eighth notes, even though they didn't say so here. So let me try one that kind of incorporates all those elements, and hopefully that gives you a sense of what you can do here. 1, 2, here I go. And just keep that in mind that if you happen to hit a funny note there, like I hope that no one hits an F sharp in F major. You're always a half step away. I meant to do that there, right? And then you can resolve it there, okay? You're always either a half step or a whole step away from taking that really funny note there and then making it seem like a really creative non-chord tone that you have here. So I hope that gives you enough ideas there to kind of create your own improvisations, and I hope you'll have fun with this assignment. And let me know if you have any questions. You can leave it in the comments or email me or your other group piano instructors here at SFA directly, okay? So good luck, and let's push forward towards the end of the semester here. Thanks. Go Jacks.